Wrecking machine. I'll take it.
Are you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again.
And it's a bad hair day too.
So she's like, scream for me, and then it's just that silence.
It was a good risk to take, and it was great.
Boom! I'm gonna try to give you a friend, and then I was like,
I wish you had like a granny mask.
That would be so cool, or like a ghost uniform.
And everybody was like totally freaked out.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Kia ora. Hello.
Hello, Mark.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I am Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Sunday, March 7th, 2021. It's been a good start to the month, a good start to the year. A lot of things coming up, and I've been very busy, so I hope that all of you are doing well out there, as well as you can be doing right now during this time. And thank you so much again for joining me. As always, I have some housekeeping things I'd like to go through before we get started. And coming up this week, the reason I'm laughing is there's a lot of things in flux right now. So I have a few things that are confirmed, and there's like 3 things, including like 2 other interviews that literally just came into my inbox in terms of them trying to find days and times for a couple of artists. But the ones that are confirmed, Wednesday at noon Pacific Standard Time, Barahari, who is a musician out of Los Angeles, will be joining me. She just dropped a new video. I think that was a few days ago. She's actually new to me, but I really like the video. It has a big Kill Bill vibe to it that she seems to really be into. So I'm going to be talking with her on Wednesday. And then on Thursday morning, The Treatment, which is a No Frills AC/DC type of band from the UK. That's at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Their 5th album is coming out really soon. So I've never talked to them either. So I'm looking forward to talking to them about their new album and everything that they have going on. It looks like I should have an interview with a director this Tuesday, but we're trying to nail down the time. And then again, these 2 other folks that are coming through, they're trying to squeeze something in on Wednesday or Thursday. So there might be a couple of days this week where I actually have 2 virtual interviews going on. But hey, more the merrier. And if you've been paying attention to anything that I've been doing, I also have the film festival, the Seattle Jewish Film Festival is still going on through the 18th of this month. So later tonight, I'll be reviewing some more films from them, and they've been awesome to work with. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else is coming up here on their slate. If you're not familiar with that festival, the films that they have are available to rent for 72 hours. So you only have a 3-day window basically, and then they have other things that come up. So I'm trying to kind of stay a few days ahead of the release dates of things that are available to them. So that's going on for me, and everything else that always is going on. So as always, this streaming service that I use is not free for me. So if you are so inclined to make a tip or a donation, which would be here, I would greatly appreciate it, but that's only if you're inclined, if you're in a position to do so. I completely understand if you're not. A lot of people aren't, and I'm actually one of them. But that link is always in the YouTube description. It's always in the Facebook description too. So depending on where you're watching, if you could follow, subscribe, all of that usual stuff that everybody talks about, it actually does make a difference in terms of how our numbers go and the relevance and how you start moving up the ladder and all that kind of thing. So, but that's a tip type of thing that's going on. And I want to thank Steve, who made a very generous donation a few days ago, and as well as Dina. Dina made a really sizable donation, which I was completely taken aback by. So I'm so appreciative and grateful for both of your donations. And we'll kind of go from there. So let me take this off. And I had somebody that was asking me, how come they always see my finger do this? Is because if you're not familiar with my interviews, I use my phone. So I'm not on a laptop or a desktop or anything like that. I'm using my phone. So when my finger's doing this, it's because I'm getting near the camera on my phone and I'm trying to scroll through the application here that I use to do my interviews. So that's what's kind of going on. If you happen to have a comment or a question for the guest today, you can always put that into the chat that you're on your platform. Again, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, and then I'll try to incorporate that into the interview. I'm really looking forward to talking to these guests, so let's get to it. My guests today have brought their talents together to form a new project. Their EP is dropping this Friday, March 12th. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Dan and Scott David, The Burying Kind.
Hey there, Mark. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be a lot of fun to talk about The Burying Kind. I keep saying that because some people have been saying that when certain words, when I pronounce them, they can't understand what I'm saying. So if I say horror, it sounds like I'm saying whore. So I'm like burying.
Burying, yeah. It's not the easiest word to say anyway, so I got it.
Kind of like digging, burying. So I understand that with this project, you guys had like a mutual friend that kind of got you together. So can you kind of expound upon that, please?
Sure. Yeah, we had a mutual friend who was doing a benefit compilation, and we were paired up together. Dan did a remix with his band, the Joy Thieves, remixed my band, The Covenant of Thorns, and the result was something I absolutely fell in love with. He did such a great job that I immediately knew I wanted to work with him on something. So that's sort of how we came together.
Okay. And so Dan, when you were working on that remix, like how long did that take you to do that? And
you know, I wasn't familiar with his band, The Covenant of Thorns, before we were doing the remix. He was just a friend of Ken's. And so right away, I started listening to some of his music and just fell in love with it. It was so good. I'm a huge fan of his other band, A Covenant of Thorns. And so, but like I said, I was not familiar with it before then. And even just choosing a song to remix was kind of a chore because I wound up really, really liking a lot of the music. I finally locked into one, and over the course of a few weeks did this remix and just hoped that he would like it. And when I sent it off, he seemed to be as happy with it as we were. But I just fell in love with his voice. It's so amazing. And I think right then we started talking about the potential of possibly working together in the future.
Okay. So is this timeline in terms of The Burying Kind, was this all happening within like the last year during the pandemic?
It was. In fact, it was right about at the start of the pandemic is when both of our time freed up. And we had been talking about maybe doing a song together. And it just seemed like, hey, this is the perfect time to do this. Let's try it out. And yeah, we've been working ever since.
Okay, and I want to say a quick hi to Steve Johnson. I realize he says he can't stay, but he wanted to say hello. So
hey, Steve.
Hi, Steve, and thank you again for your donation earlier. That was really appreciated. So it sounds like during the pandemic, some of the guests I've talked to, they were saying, "Oh, I always wish I had, if I had time, I would do something," and then they don't end up doing it. And some people, it's the other way around. It's like, oh, they had the time, they actually took advantage of it. So it sounds like you guys took advantage of that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a professional musician, and so as soon as the pandemic hit, my schedule completely freed up. I mean, like really just all the work that I was expecting through the spring and fall, or excuse me, through the spring, summer, and fall was gone. And I really didn't want to waste that time. It was kind of a strange gift. I mean, having that much time to dedicate to anything, especially anything like creatively, is amazing. And I wanted to use every last minute of that time. And he reached out to me about, just maybe a day or two after everything had happened. And it just seemed like the perfect time at that point. It's like, let's do this. Let's at least try it, see where it goes.
Okay. So if we kind of start getting into that process of you guys sending files back and forth. So can you kind of walk me through, like, let's take like Falling Over, the lyric video, that particular song. Who started it? Did you have like an actual demo and you sent to the other guy and then they kind of messed around with it? Or was it just like basically real basic ideas and then you're kind of going back and forth with it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for me, I think, at this point to know who started what. It's become so sort of melded together and become its own thing that half the time I can listen back now, and I'm not 100% sure of what I contributed per song. There's certain things I know, but there's others I'm not sure. But generally, the workflow is one or the other will start something out, send it over, and say, see if this does something for you. If not, no big deal. Pretty much every time it did something for us, and we just ended up sending back and forth, adding things on, and I think that's generally been the workflow.
Yeah, and that was part of the amazing part too. I mean, writing music with somebody, especially long distance, isn't necessarily. It can be a difficult task, and we didn't have any difficulty at all. I mean, literally from the very second we started sending songs back and forth, it was just on. It was like, oh, this is what it is. I mean, like, I loved everything he was sending me, and vice versa. And there weren't times where I can't even recall a time where we sent something to one another and we're just like, no, I don't really like it. It was just all working right from the beginning.
Wow, that's an amazing synergy to find. I mean, that's when you find it, you want to hang on to that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's rare. I mean, that's really rare especially with creative types. I mean, you can be, you have the two most creative people in the world, and sometimes when you put those things together, it doesn't work well, or they don't get along well, or anything like that. And this was it seemed like the perfect matchup, honestly, right from the start.
Wow. And can you guys tell me a little bit more about, so as you were sending files back and forth, were you also doing all the instrumentation then, or did you eventually have other people come in to help out with some of that?
We did. Initially, it was Dan and I write everything. It's essentially the two of us, and so maybe Dan would put down a guitar line and some drums and send it over, and then I would maybe add another guitar line and some synthesizer, and it would go back and forth, and then I'd add lyrics and vocals, and then I think we got the set of songs to the point where they were fully written and where we wanted them, and then that's where we kind of brought in some friends to add their parts. Gordon Young did a lot of the guitars. James Scott did bass lines. Bobby Simmons. Several people contributed to, I think, the final product.
But the initial writing was just kind of between the two of us. So and kind of really the only black and white things are I did all the drums and he did all the lead vocals, and everything else that you're hearing was kind of a meld of our ideas. And then all the bass tracks were laid by people that we know. We fortunately have some very talented friends. So we get to call a few people and get some help for that. And then get, like he said, Gordon Young added some guitars. I've got a buddy who plays sax on one of the songs, and those things really added to the final mix. But those all kind of came after the songs were completed.
Okay, all right. So yeah, it sounds like between the two of you, you had the foundation of everything, and then you just had some friends kind of come in that kind of add some spice to certain things. And
absolutely, and it's one of those things too. I mean, when you know people like that, it's like, sure, we could probably do some bass that would be very rudimentary, but if you know somebody who's great at it, why not have them on? Why not make the recordings that much better? And I think it really, really worked with everybody that we had involved. It was great.
Did I butcher Bobby's last name, by the way?
A little bit, yeah. Simons.
Sorry, Bobby.
Sorry, Bobby.
No, that makes sense. Especially like you said, if you got talented friends, and they have time, might as well try to incorporate them where you can.
Well, and it was fortunate too, because we sent the songs and the people that we asked seemed to be into it, which was nice too. They really seemed to understand where we're coming from and like the music, which means everything with stuff like this.
Yeah, for sure. And Dan, I was telling you pre-show about how sometimes when someone reaches out to me that I don't know, like friend of a friend kind of a thing, I'm always a little bit like, oh man, I hope I like this because I don't like telling other creative folks, since I consider myself a creative folk, that something's not resonating with me. But when I heard your music, it was like, whoo, this is so good. I can't wait to talk to them.
I'm so glad to hear that. And we got to thank Anya too, because Anya from Ayatoya is the one who recommended that we reach out to you. So hi, Anya.
Yeah, hi. She's amazing, and I'm so glad that she did mention me to you guys, because now I know who you are and I can talk about you and listen to your music and appreciate your music. From Falling Over Down to Dusk. I mean, all of those tracks are strong, and there's also variance in them. So it's not that there's definitely nothing one note about this EP at all. And so I think if I kept listening to it, then I kept hearing other things, and there's more layers and more depth to it. And I love that kind of recording.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we were working on this, like I said, I was looking for something to dump my time into. You know what I mean? I was looking for a thing, and all those layers are something that Scott, David, and I took very seriously, and we are fans of that type of production. So mixing the songs was really fun. A time to really sculpt those sounds in the mixes, and Scott David had more time to really find the right guitar sounds, the right synth sounds. And there are a lot of layers to it, but that's my favorite type of production. So.
Okay. And Scott David, since you were doing the lead vocals, did you also write the lyrics?
I did, yes. And a lot of the lyrics were in tandem with the project, were sort of dealing with the pandemic, and so I think you'll sort of feel that theme throughout. A bit dark, but an air of hopefulness also.
Okay. Yeah. Again, kind of like I was telling you guys pre-show, I love Horizons, and that kind of description that you just said about it's dark, but also some hope. That's what I feel in that song. And I think it's, a really good description of what almost all of us were probably going through and still going through during this time of like trying to look at the bright side, trying to be positive, trying to look for silver linings. But at the same time, you have days where you're like, man, that's pretty heavy right now. But just trying to keep the eye on the prize that we're going to turn a corner at some point and get back to things that we love and know about, and giving people hugs and seeing live music and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, can't wait. And Scott David's voice has a quality to it that really seems to touch people too, and it walks that line of darkness and hope so well. And I think that's an amazing thing. Not everybody could sing those songs and have them turn out the same way. Not even close.
Yeah, and Dan, that's a good point. Scott David's voice there's so much like depth to it, and there's so much character going on with it and nuance that, again, when I first heard this first song, I was like, oh my gosh. It was like, let me listen to this. Whatever I was doing, I had to stop and actually just focus in on the song and take everything in. And it was just beautiful, beautiful work.
Thank you.
Yes. And so you guys have 5 songs on this EP, and were there more tracks that you were working on, or are there things you've been working on now, and you have this whole library of things that you've been doing?
We do. We've got easily enough for a full-length CD and more. We're continuing to work now, and I think we'll continue working for hopefully for a very long time. I think we really click well together and work well together, and I don't see anything slowing us down.
And that was one of the fun parts when we were writing the music too. I mean, there's 5 now that are on the EP, but we wrote somewhere between 15 and 20 songs over that course of time. And so really kind of choosing which ones were going to be the first things to put out to the public, that was fun. It was fun being able to craft the songs together into an EP that makes sense. And also it was fun to hold stuff back and think that'll be really cool to let people hear at a later date. So there was no lack of songwriting at the time. We really hit this stride and just and wrote a lot of music together in a very short amount of time.
Wow. And do you guys kind of come from the older school where you're looking at how every song works together like an album type of mentality?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're both fans of that sort of the EP and album format, and putting those songs together in a way that takes the listener on some sort of journey. It's always been important to me, and I love that Scott David needs that as much in his work as I do mine. So it's very important.
And I won't speak for Dan's age, but I grew up in the 70s, where essentially you'd put on some vinyl and you'd listen to the album from start to finish, and there's a story arc, there's a reason that each track is where it is, because it pushes the narrative forward. And I think both of us are definitely very conscious of that as well.
That's awesome to hear. I grew up like in the late 70s, early 80s, so I remember having the vinyl on. I'm looking at the lyric sheet or whatever's on the inside thing. If it's a gatefold album, and looking at the pictures and just taking it all in. And for me to get to this where we are in 2021, where it's like drop a single, wait a couple of months, drop a single, I can't relate to it. I understand why they're doing it, but I can't relate to it at all. Because I want to have that whole flow. I want to have the ups and downs, and that, like you just said, Scott, Dave, that story arc of what's trying to be said with this statement of this music, and I can't get it when it's here over the course of a year.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say for me, I mean, singles have their place. I guess there's some good songs that come out as singles, but for me, there's just something about just going on that sort of ride through a full album, and like you said, actually, holding on and looking at the liner notes, and I feel very fortunate to have grown up in a time where that was a thing.
I'm kind of like you, Mark. I really, the singles, I'm sure they have their place, and I think that's kind of why I've gravitated towards the EP format for a lot of my projects these days, because it is shorter, and I understand that people's attention spans are shorter, so that's fine. But I can't let go of how songs play together, and I don't want to. I think having 4 or 5 songs, you can do that in kind of a smaller format, like the way that albums used to be. Anything shorter than that, I kind of lose interest, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And again, I'm not, throwing shade on folks that do that. I understand why they do it. It's a whole different market in 2021, but just for my own preference, it's like, give me the whole thing. Give me the EP, give me the LP. Let me sit there and just digest this and live with it for a while. That's what I want to do.
And like you, I was totally the same. It's one of my favorite parts of when I used to listen to music is when you get there and I read the production notes, and I'm reading all the lyrics, and I'm reading who wrote what. That stuff means a lot to me. It really does. I love that stuff. So I'm just a fan of that format, obviously.
I feel like a single could maybe drive me to an album, but it's rare that I'll listen to a single and say, wow, I really want to hear that single again. But there's plenty of times I'll listen to an album and go, wow, that's going to be in rotation for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same way. I actually did this interview a few weeks ago, and one of the young guests who's 15 was saying, Mark, how do you remember all this stuff? And I was trying to tell her that it's like some people memorize like baseball, player facts and stats from cards, all that kind of stuff. And for me, it was musicians, it was bands. So if you want to know every lineup that Iron Maiden had, I can probably tell you every guitar player they had during their the 40 years they've been in existence, and production notes and what studio they use and all these kind of things. And that's what I just would absorb, all those years as a teenager and in my 20s and all that kind of thing. And it really hasn't changed. So, and I don't think it will change. I love that kind of thing when I can sit there again with any kind of tangible music and just really just live with it and take it all in and try to really understand what the artist is trying to put forth. So that kind of begs the question, though. Once we are past this pandemic, or we're getting to the transitionary point where we have streaming / some socially distanced in-person performances, I'm already seeing some press releases for that kind of thing in certain states, and that's kind of interesting to me that they're trying to live stream and have in-person at the same time. Is this project something that's going to be live, or is it going to be strictly studio?
I think at this point, there's no plans to play live. We both have our individual projects, and those will continue on. But I think the thing that's really great about this is there's no expectation for any of that. So it really frees us up to just do what we're really passionate about, which is just writing music that first and foremost we love to make. So I think really that's the focus.
Yeah, I mean, it really was created as an outlet for us. I mean, that was the entire purpose of the thing, is to flood these emotions that were going on this past year into something that we both were passionate about, and I think that's what we've done. And I don't see any reason to not have it always be that. It just did that so well, and it fills a certain part of my life with such joy, and I'm just anxious to keep that going. The live thing is neither here nor there with me as far as this particular project.
Okay. Yeah, no, and that makes sense too. Like you said, you both have your individual projects and other things that are going on, and this is something that is working so well. It's kind of found its place. It sounds like so. It's like we're going to keep doing what we do. It makes us feel good. We're loving what's coming, what we're producing. So we're just going to kind of stay on that path. That makes perfect sense to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just off the top of my head, since we were talking about vinyl, is there plans for a vinyl release?
You know, we've talked about it. This was our very first release, obviously, this EP. I think this is the kind of music that is made for vinyl. I think it would be amazing to do. And we've actually talked about it a little bit. But at this point in time, we were so new, we weren't even sure how this was going to be received. We started this entire thing very small, with the hopes that maybe it could grow bigger, but we certainly didn't plan on that necessarily. I would love to see a future vinyl release, but doing kind of small run vinyl at this point in time is really kind of, it's just very expensive to do. So I think if this continues to grow, I would love to see a project like this land on vinyl. I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be really, really amazing to see this on vinyl. And I think the other piece of it too is that, one of the bands that I've been a fan of for a long time, one thing they've been doing is they've been doing a lot of pre-orders. So it kind of takes that risk out of it so that the fans have already paid and they just understand it might take 2 to 4 weeks for them to actually get their product, but at least they're not stuck with, boxes of things in their garage kind of concept. And that's a very real thing, especially having been, through a year where people have not been able to make a full income if they're an artist. That here, I'm not going to be able to put, $5,000 forward to press up a bunch of vinyl or whatever it costs and then hope that we sell it.
Right.
Is that ever something that you might consider doing, like to mitigate some of that risk about doing a pre-order situation with fans so that they can pay up front and then get their vinyl maybe a month down the road?
Possibly. I mean, like I said, we just wanted to, with this first EP, this was just kind of the introduction. Where it goes from here, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think either of us know, and that's sort of the fun of it. But like I said, I think it would be awesome to eventually be able to do that. But as a brand new band trying to do that, crowdfund something, it'd be nearly impossible because nobody knows who we are. So hopefully, as this continues to grow, that might change, and I think that's a great way to do it. And I've done things like that in the past with some of my projects, where where you wind up with the money first, and then what you can do. So I would love to see that eventually, but we're really just gonna have to see where this thing goes, I guess.
And I think something to kind of comment about with this project also is we never sat down and discussed what it was going to be. We never decided we're going to do X type of music. It's really just been for the joy of it and kind of going along as we go along. So I think, although maybe it sounds a little vague, we don't mean to be, but really that's just the way it's been going. We just kind of go with the flow and see where it takes us.
Okay, yeah, and I can respect that. Sounds like it's very extremely organic. It's kind of like that you guys are just kind of going with it, and you don't exactly know where it's going to end up 6 months from now or a year from now. It's just like we're just kind of go with it, and as long as we still enjoy it, then we're going to keep doing it.
Well, and that's been some of the fun parts of the past few months, is that even as we were writing the music back then, it wasn't like we weren't planning a release and we're going to make an EP and then we're going to do this. It was just for us, and that's it. We were just having fun doing that. So it was exciting when we finally realized, well, maybe we should put something out. That would be kind of fun. And every step of the way, and we put it out, and it seems like people are receiving it well, and that's exciting. So every last step of it kind of feels like it's building, and it's all beyond kind of what we had expected in the beginning, which was literally just to have some fun and write some songs together.
Okay, well, and I was thinking about, since we were talking about the ebb and flow of vinyl and track selection and that kind of thing, and you guys have 5 tracks on this EP, and then the last track, Dusk, is like over 7 minutes long. Was that on purpose?
Was it on purpose? I don't know. I mean, I will say that it was selected on purpose. It definitely, Dusk is track 5, absolutely, for a very specific reason, which is to hopefully achieve what both of us love about an album. Is when the last track makes you want to go back and listen again. It leaves you wanting some more. That's my favorite thing about the end of any release. So I think it was very intentional that we chose that track. as for it being 7 minutes long, I don't know how intentional that was. It just kind of happened, but.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things too that I enjoy, kind of like Scott David said, I love the last track on a record. Typically, I'm a fan, and I think it determines where things go from there. Do you want to play it again, or does it just kind of leave you want to chill out for a minute? Or and we chose that one because of the effect that it has on people as the last thing that they're hearing. I don't know if that answered the question or not, but I just we actually just did discuss it. We're fans of kind of what the last statement is that you're about to make, and what does that do for people and how they react to it.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of that type of selection in terms of the tracks as well, because yeah, that last track, if it doesn't kind of encapsulate everything and make me want to listen to the album again, then something's kind of wrong. Maybe that was the wrong track to put there, or maybe something else was going on. But when it's the right one, there's like, man, then this is exactly how it's supposed to be. Everything kind of comes together, and now I want to go back to track one and do it all over again.
And I think there's part of it too that because it is 7.5 minutes long, so it's a long track. So out of the 5, if you put something like that first or second, we were talking earlier about people's very short attention spans. They might not give it the time, and they might turn it off before it's done. So I think putting it last makes the most sense, as far as if you've made your way through the first 4 songs and enjoyed it, you're really going to like that. But it's not something that you'd open up a record with or anything like that.
By 1970s album standards, that would be considered an album cut.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like with everything that you have going on, again, organically in the future, you're just going to keep writing and keep seeing what your schedules are like and fitting things where it fits. And then it's not like you have some grandiose plan of, by June, we're going to do this, and then we're going to have a music video on here. It's kind of like, well, if it feels right, then we're going to do it. And if not, then we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing because it's feeling good. So am I kind of correct with that assessment?
Yeah. I mean, like Dan mentioned, I mean, it really was just about the pure joy of writing together. And I think that's not something I want to let go of and cloud with too much of the business side of it. I mean, on top of it, it's become a really good friendship. And I think the friendship and just the love of what we're doing is probably the key thing.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to the business side of things, we'll probably just take it release by release. I mean, kind of when we locked into these 5 songs and we realized we were going to do it, then of course you have to start putting steps in line. You got to get all your ducks in a row if you're going to put something out. So looking forward to it. Well, I'm not sure what the next release will be, and I'm not sure when it'll happen, but I know it's going to be really fun to do.
Okay, and for folks that want to buy the release, the EP, they need to go to your Bandcamp, correct? And I know when I looked at it, you had an autograph version that was already sold out, and then you've got the standard version that's available for people to buy. And do you have any plans to do another run of autograph copies?
We weren't sure even. Like I said before, we're so new. We weren't even sure if anyone was going to buy it. We weren't even sure if anyone was going to like it. It's totally possible to put your heart and soul into a project and it just doesn't resonate with people. It shocked me immensely when I looked and saw that the autograph copies were gone. People really seemed to like it a lot, and that was I don't want to say a surprise. It was a pleasant surprise, but and at that point, we just thought, well, we'll see. I don't even know how long the CDs that we have are going to last. But I guess when those run out, we'll make some decisions about what comes next. And it could be we might do some more, or we might just not. I hate to be so vague, like you said, but it's we're really just kind of doing things as we feel like doing them. So.
Okay. No, and again, that kind of makes sense. I think for people that are watching this now, or watching this in the future, then you kind of know that it's not on purpose or something. They're just kind of feeling things out and just kind of going with how the energy's taking them. And that also kind of means that if you really like it, and if you like, physical media like I do, then go to their Bandcamp and pick up that CD if you're so inclined. And if you do the digital thing, you do it digitally, and then just kind of go from there and see what happens in the next months coming up. So Dan and Scott David, thank you so much for taking the time. This is awesome. Again, I truly love the EP. I'm not blowing smoke whatsoever. I love the EP. And I think anyone out there that loves any of the type of music that go to YouTube and listen to the first lyric video. That'll give you an idea of what it's like, and then you can go to Bandcamp and order it if you decide to. I know I will be. So again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time. I wish you every success with the project, and hopefully I can talk with you sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, Mark. It's been great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks very much. It was great to talk with you.
Thank you very much. Stay safe over there, and have a good night.
You too.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.